So again, good morning, everyone. My name is Eugene Howard, and thank you for joining us for our very first Engage DOLA webinar for the year of 2026. You will be hearing from a variety of us today. Myself, Scott Williams. Hannah is off today, but I wanted to make sure that you saw her face and her name because she will be referenced throughout the presentation. Kyle Soner, Mark Williams, and Ashley Basham are also here today to present. As a reminder, or for anyone that might be joining us for the first time, this meeting has been really established as a clearinghouse of information related to the land use legislation from 24, 25, and whatever may come of this current session. We have it organized by theme or what we refer to as tracks, so that hopefully the information is easy to search and find. Our website is growing as we produce more materials and more resources in aid of all of you and the work that we're all collectively working on. So there's a lot of information, general information and reminders. We often will feature certain topics or certain initiatives as they occur throughout the year. Of course, all of the legislation is outlined, as I mentioned, by law. And we also share a great deal of information related to our grant programs and some of the other pilot programs and initiatives that are underway. This slide is meant to be a resource for you as well, for those who are able to see the screen. We use not only the legislation title, its sort of colloquial title, we also use the formal citations. And so we want to make sure that you have access to both the formal citations as well as sort of the everyday name or title of the legislation, so that as you are searching for things, you are equipped to find the right resource. At the end of 2025, our November and December meetings were recorded and posted for viewing. This is the agenda from our November meeting. So we covered a lot in November. Actually, we took December off, but we covered a lot in November. So just a quick reminder in case you are interested in any of these topics listed here, that recording is available on our website, and you can, of course, go back and review any of that material or reach out to us and we can cover it with you one-on-one. For this month, we've got a number of updates. We'll be covering some slides as reminders and maybe for the final time in the beginning of the year, because we are looking and we'll want to work with all of you to keep this information lively, timely, and fresh. So as you listen to today's webinar presentation, be thinking about, now that we've kind of done some of the initial heavy lifting, what tools and resources or information would be really valuable to you at your local level or with your staff, with your elected officials in your communities. And really, we are happy to work with each of you to produce resources or tools that would be helpful for you, but potentially for others as well. So definitely know that we are wanting to engage with you and produce materials that would be of use, not only for this webinar, but for you in your day-to-day work. Another quick reminder, we do have our land use, housing, and implementation portal, the place where you can come and share with us your progress in the implementation of this legislation. We've got a lot of you out there that are registered, so thank you so much for those of you who have been actively using the portal. This is also a great moment to say that if your community's URL has changed or domains have changed, we definitely want to make sure to get that information from you to keep information and records in the system updated so that you are certain to get information as we are processing reviews and providing feedback, and to make sure that you don't miss any critical information. So definitely make sure to share information with us when those types of changes occur. We'll do our best to make sure all of that gets updated throughout our various systems. And also just make sure too, if anything changes on the staffing level, if you've got new people coming in or new people maybe moving on, that we make sure our records in the portal are up to date and accurate. The EO dashboard, the executive order issued by Governor Polis last year, for those who may not recall or maybe aren't as close to this work, we did create a public-facing dashboard really meant to communicate compliance and progress towards compliance with all of our land use related work. There are links to the dashboard on our website, and we are in the process of developing a monthly rolling basis. So as you are working in your communities and you get things sort of accomplished and you share that with us, we are looking at a monthly cadence to keep the dashboard updated and fresh because we really want to make sure that all of your hard work is reflected in the dashboard and that it's also when we get closer to using this work for the grant work, that of course everyone is getting the credit that they've earned. A couple of announcements here. We will have some more towards the latter half of the presentation, but we do have some upcoming opportunities. We just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of those upcoming announcements. So for example, we've got our EIAF grant applications were opened on January 12th and will close on February 13th. So if this is a program that you're interested in or that you would like to take advantage of this year, the time is now. We have our local planning capacity grant program. We've got a funding round opening up on Monday. So right around the corner. So again, if this is a program that's been of interest to you in your community, you've got an opportunity starting on Monday to apply for that program. Ashley will be speaking to some of our housing and grant related housing and ADU grant programs. So I won't really speak too much on those right now, but we'll skip to our last bullet here and see if Scott would like to share a bit more about the regional roundtables.
Great, thanks, Eugene. So this is a opportunity established by House Bill 251198, and we are implementing that bill with a pilot round of a regional roundtable approach. So what we're seeking right now are submitting submittals of requests from local governments where there is a challenge or an opportunity that the local government would like support with in addressing at a regional level. So some criteria we'd be looking at in these requests are things like making sure there's support for a collaborative approach, consideration of other regional mechanisms and kind of ruling those out, and just general support at the official local government level for those requests. And so we are asking for requests by the end of January, and we'll see what we get in the door. The idea is to have a pilot opportunity to be able to address that within the calendar year, so by the end of 2026. So if you have a challenge or opportunity you'd like regional support with, consider submitting it in the online form. And again, this is only for municipalities and counties.
Excellent, thank you. And it's perfect segue into our featured topic. So take it away, Scott.
Great. Thanks, Eugene. So I would like to take this opportunity to focus on some guidance we are currently developing on the strategic growth element for comprehensive plans. As you will recall from previous webinars, the strategic growth element is a new section of comprehensive plans that is now required for certain jurisdictions with a comprehensive plan by Senate Bill 24-174. And it considers how a community will guide growth to support housing and land use efficiently. And so we're at a stage where we're in the process of developing the guidance. We put it out for public review through the end of last year and are now working to finalize it. So this is a bit of a preview, but just an idea of why you might complete a strategic growth element. It's aimed to address the demonstrated housing needs of the community while also minimizing the need for extension of infrastructure and public services into natural and agricultural lands. So a really thoughtful way to approach addressing our housing needs in Colorado. as led by local governments and regional entities. So, in terms of who needs to complete a strategic growth element or where they need to be completed, I want to be specific on this one. So, if a county or municipality has explicitly received state funding to complete a strategic growth element, then yes, you need to complete one. Counties with over 20,000 residents in the unincorporated territory or between 5,000 and 20,000 residents in that unincorporated territory and either exactly stable or positive population growth between and within the last decennial census. So that's between 2010 and 2020. And then municipalities with greater than or equal to 20,000 residents also need to complete a strategic growth element. And then for those slightly smaller municipalities between 2,000 and 20,000, if they saw stable or positive population growth between 2010 and 2020. Regional planning commissions with a comprehensive plan are also required to complete a strategic growth element. And of course, check out that multi-law applicability tool if you have further questions and want to know specifically about your jurisdiction. And eligible jurisdictions have considered a variety of approaches, as you see here. They're either an adobe, stucco, or vinyl siding approach. No, I'm joking here. That should say adopt. So eligible jurisdictions must adopt a strategic growth element into their comprehensive plans by the end of 2026. And again, that's for communities with existing comprehensive plans. This does not add a requirement to comprehensive plan. And then strategic growth elements must be updated at least every 5 years. A little bit about what's in a strategic growth element as required under that Senate bill. There are three main components in a strategic growth element. One is description of existing and potential policies and tools to promote strategic growth and prevent sprawl. The second component is around analyzing vacant and underutilized sites for infill development opportunities. And then the third component is an analysis of undeveloped sites not adjacent to existing developed sites where you would need to extend infrastructure and develop natural or agricultural lands. That one has a bit of a higher threshold and a different type of analysis in terms of describing the long-term fiscal impact from extending that infrastructure and developing those undeveloped sites. So those are the three components in the strategic growth element. And there's a variety of different ways to approach it. We recognize that this interim period between now and the end of 2026, you may be on an off cycle for your comprehensive plan. Communities are in a wide variety of different places. So there are different pathways. We identify two general pathways in the guidance we're developing, a low-tech pathway and a high-tech pathway. Generally, a low-tech is for more of a qualitative hands-on approach that may be more applicable to smaller communities. A high-tech pathway might be necessary for communities with a large land area or large population and large number of parcels. And of course, you can do a combination of these methodologies. It's not hemming you into one or the other. And then the draft guidance is available on the website, and we will have final guidance coming soon, at latest by early to mid-February. So I have one more slide on this one, and then I'll hand it back over. Yes, and then a related tool that I really wanted to highlight, we talked about at previous meetings, the Vital Landscapes and Resources Report is something that was required for DOLA to develop under Senate Bill 24-174. And as part of that, local governments are required to consider this report where applicable and appropriate. So to help you with that, we've developed a planning guide and along with a toolbox of policies and tools and a simple checklist as a potential approach to considering these vital landscapes and resources. And the reason it relates to the strategic growth report is, of course, you want to be considering those lands that you might have under consideration for extending infrastructure onto previously undeveloped land. So a consideration of this report and tools at a variety of levels is an opportunity to take a deeper dive on that side of things. And so I will turn it back over to, I think Ashley is up next. Is that right?
No, I think you're stuck with me
Oh,
for a
oh
little
yeah,
bit,
Eugene, go.
more. So, again, Hannah is taking a much deserved day off today, so I'm going to cover some ADU work for her. 2025 was a really busy and active year for ADUs, and those of you working with us on compliance with this law. We had a toolkit which we worked on for several weeks, actually months, and we finally got that published towards the latter part of 2025. We've been providing resources. We've got our website is updated and continues to evolve and grow as we produce and secure more resources to share. We've produced a one pager. It's actually two pages, one printed page back and front with some really helpful information. Definitely take a look at that, download it, use it for yourself, or perhaps it can be printed and used at your local community just to share more about the program. But definitely would love to encourage you to take a look at that and all the resources that were developed in support of ADUs. And speaking of support of ADUs, this is a graphic that sort of does a high-level overview of how to become an ADU supportive jurisdiction. This is taking compliance a step further, the benefits of becoming a supportive jurisdiction. Many of them are listed here. Paid particular attention to the red box to the right. And we also have more information on our DOLA certified jurisdictions on our website. You can see that link down there in the blue bar. Of course, this presentation will be emailed out at the end of this webinar, either today or early next week. So you'll have access to this information. But we really wanted to make sure just to kind of give a high level overview. And one of the benefits, in addition to the state level resources and the ADU grant program, which Ashley will speak to in a moment, that this has the potential of unlocking CHFA resources for your local residents. So the state's program is meant for all of you, local governments, but CHFA has a complementary program meant and targeted for homeowners who really would like to have some additional resources in developing ADUs for themselves. And so by becoming a supportive jurisdiction, it really does unlock those resources for your community and the residents in your community. We are also always looking for some of those success stories, some of those great examples from your neighborhoods and from your communities. So if you are seeing some great results in something or a tool, an approach, a concept that you think other communities could also benefit from, we'd be happy to hear about that and add that to sort of our clearinghouse of materials. So definitely let us know if you'd like, and we'd be more than happy to share all the good work that's happening around the state. Hannah wanted me to be sure to let you all know that she is conducting courtesy reviews. I mentioned at the start of this webinar that we've got that reporting portal. That's kind of more of like the official opportunity to share with us. But if you would like to get a sense of how you're doing, if some of the things you're thinking about in your community are going to sort of satisfy the needs of the law, definitely reach out to us in advance of submittal in the portal. It allows us to kind of maybe get, or roll up our sleeves, work with you a little bit, point some things out, or maybe kind of suggest some tweaks so that when you do officially report through the portal, you've got a pretty good sense of how things will go. It helps you on your side, and it helps us as well, because then it helps streamline those reviews because we've got quite a bit of volume to move through. And if there's other opportunities or questions coming from your team, your staff, or your communities, and you would like to kind of work with us on responding, definitely reach out with myself or Hannah for that technical assistance and guidance. Very quickly, just a few reminders on minimum parking requirements. I won't take too much time on this, but this is really meant to help reduce expenses related to parking and developing parking structures and parking lots around transit so that ideally those cost savings can be passed on to the consumer or can be reallocated to actually building housing and not spaces for cars. So it's really the desired intent behind this law. We've got our website that can give some additional information on the parking law. We've got best practices, webinars, and slides, other tools and resources. So really invite you all to take advantage of those. And again, reach out if you have any questions or would like to just consult with us on how you might approach parking or the reduction of parking in your community. And with that, I'd like to turn things over to Kyle to walk us through transit-oriented communities. So take it away, Kyle.
Thanks, Eugene, and good morning, everyone. Kyle Sona here with some updates and reminders regarding TOC. So 2025 was a busy year getting communities started with their TOC analysis, submitting those preliminary HOG reports, and providing whatever tools and information we could to ensure our subject jurisdictions had a successful start to this law. I just want to take a moment to celebrate all the hard work that communities put in and are preparing for in the new year. We're currently sitting around 70% compliance, and we're very proud of the participation that it took to get there. We're off to a great start in 2026 as we approach the final HOG report deadline at the end of the year. And this is just going to be a year of discussions, courtesy reviews, and other technical assistance, and also hopefully many successful submissions. Next slide, please. As I said, we have a great technical assistance team that's ready and willing to engage in discussion, provide analysis, and overall assist with just whatever you need to build that strong final HOG report. We want to continue to encourage folks to engage with us early and engage often to identify both strengths and hurdles to compliance with the TOC law. This is I want this to serve as a reminder that you don't need to come to us with completed materials for a courtesy review. We're happy to provide feedback wherever you're at in the process. That doesn't mean that it has to be one completed package. We're happy to take a look at whatever you need us to. And so this is just our ever-growing list of tools and resources that we've made available. We continue to make updates to the guidance document as we engage in discussions and identify new helpful information. Many local governments are diving into the transit center calculation model, which we're working on some complementary parcel data that should be made available soon. And that calculation model was built to reflect a lot of flexibilities identified in the law. So please reach out to myself or anybody else on the team if you have any thoughts or questions regarding its use. Next slide, please. Finally, we wanted to provide a note that the final HOG report is live and open for business on the LUHIP portal. Big congratulations to the city of Wheat Ridge that submitted the state's first final HOG report just this week. So we completed, I think, 2 or 3 courtesy reviews for them over the past year. So the submission comes with a lot of diligent, hard work, and we thank them for it. We understand that each community has local scenarios, timelines, and workloads, but did want to note that there's a few benefits of compliance prior to those deadlines laid out by the law. This includes consideration in the 2027 TOCI grant round, potentially faster review turnarounds. As that queue starts to build, it may take our team a bit longer to give a thorough review of each HOG report. This also provides access to the CHFA tax credit program, and finally, prioritization in programs utilizing neighborhood centers, which the law includes areas that are designated as transit centers as neighborhood centers as well. And I believe that is it. So I will turn it over to Mark Williams to talk about affordable housing.
Thanks, Kyle. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to be with us. I was going to talk about mostly housing needs assessments, but housing action plans as well. So I think the thing to be most aware of at this point for housing needs assessments is this is the year that they are due, although it's at the very end of the year, December 31st, 2026. If you have any questions at all about an H&A, your H&A, or doing an H&A, don't hesitate to ask. Our contact info is at the end of the presentation. And as everyone so far has mentioned, we're happy to do courtesy reviews and have done a lot of courtesy reviews for many different places around the state. And then on the bottom row, just want to point out that we do have a lot of guidance available for housing needs assessments as well as housing action plans. We have a lot of reference guides that explain in detail how to do those, as well as more abbreviated checklists, that kind of format, as well as FAQs and webinar recordings. And we do get a lot of our FAQs from the questions that communities ask us when they're doing courtesy reviews, or even something that's just an emailed question, something that we may not have thought of. So if you have any questions, please ask. We're seeing a lot of H&A activity, and I wanted to give a gold star to Pagosa Springs and Archuleta County, who had the first approved H&A in the state, and there's their world's deepest hot springs. So there are 165 places around the state that need to do an H&A. So far, 48 of those have been approved. Another 79 are currently under review, or we've been in contact with them in some way and know that they're working on it. And then there's some others that maybe haven't contacted us, but we know they're working on it, or there's some other category. And so I think we're well on our way towards meeting the deadlines at the end of this year. And then I think this is pretty interesting, is the number of voluntary H&As. If it's voluntary, if your town, city, or county lost population between 2010 and 2020 in those two censuses, or if it's under 1,000 people in terms of its population. So 8 of these voluntary H&As have been approved. 50 places are working towards them right now, and more than 60% of those 50 places that are currently working on their voluntary H&As are under 1,000 people in population. So I think that just goes to show that regardless of your circumstances or size, many places are seeing the value of affordable housing planning. So if you are approved, we made a map. Congratulations if you're on the map, but probably everyone likes to see this anyway. Probably one thing I would point out on this map is how many regional H&As we're seeing. You can see DRCOG. Denver was not part of the DRCOG H&A, but 36 member governments in that region were. And then out on the Eastern Plains, the East Colorado Council of Local Governments. And then down on the bottom of the page, Archuleta County and Pagosa Springs, like I just mentioned. So I think this points out the, the value of regional planning, because housing markets don't stop at your county or town borders. Here's a few resources that we have. The SDO, the State Demography Office, has developed some data bundles. These are really targeted bits of data that respond directly to what's required by statute. So you can go to the State Demography website and find most of what you need in terms of data for doing an H&A. There's still other things like community engagement process, public meetings that you'll need to do. And then after I speak, Ashley Basham will be talking about funding, which we still have plenty of. We have sample scopes also for doing H&As, as well as housing action plans. So these are meant to be starting points for communities starting your housing needs assessment, for example, and are meant to be tailored to what you specifically need. As we've mentioned many times before, we do courtesy reviews, and then also we now have a recording of a webinar we did last week for H&As for small communities. We were sort of targeting smaller places, maybe under 10,000, but it's helpful no matter the size of your community, and you can see the link at the bottom of the page. And then switching gears just a little bit for comprehensive planning element requirements. These are for counties, municipalities, and regional planning commissions, so that's a little bit different, to include strategic growth elements and water supply elements in their master plans, which is the official name, in statute, but everyone calls them comp plans or comprehensive plans. So these elements must be integrated into an existing comp plan no later than the end of this year and then updated at least every 5 years thereafter. If you have an existing, I'm sorry, if you're going to do a new comp plan, then you'll need to incorporate these elements as well. And then there are certain population related exemptions which apply to the strategic growth element. And Scott Williamson talked about those earlier on. And so I think ultimately, if you have any question about whether or not you need to do a strategic growth element, you can go to that multi-law applicability tool that Scott mentioned earlier. So at this point, I'm going to pass it off to Ashley.
Good morning, everyone. I feel honored. Everyone has mentioned that I will be speaking later. So now is my time to talk a little bit about grant programs related to all of the different laws that were talked about earlier during this presentation. We'll start off with HPLN, or the Housing Planning Grant Program, which provides grants to local governments and regional entities to help them better understand their housing and planning needs to develop actionable and compliant housing needs assessments, housing action plans, water supply elements, and strategic growth elements of comprehensive plans. Round 3 of the grant program just closed applications on December 3rd. The map on the right side of this slide highlights where projects from rounds 1 and 2 were awarded, in addition to the 15 new applications that were received during round 3. The round 3 awards are anticipated in early February, so those are upcoming, but you can see in blue who applied in round 3. If you're interested in applying for round 4 of HPLN, the application will open on March 2nd and close on March 30th. As the HPLN program manager, that's me, I'm available to meet with you or jump on a phone call to discuss your community or region's interest in the grant program. Just reach out to me if you have any questions. And we also have a survey if you'd rather do it that way on our HPLN webpage. You can go to the next slide. We are often asked by potential HPLN applicants how to quantify their grant ask if they do not currently have a relationship with a consultant to complete this work. Often we tell folks to request information from other communities of similar sizes, or tell folks that they could always seek non-binding quotes from consultants that do this work utilizing the requirements outlined in the guidance documents. Now that HPLN has completed a few grant rounds, we have offered the estimates provided by the awardees and the applicants to add additional context to this type of request. The data here is based on the median cost and median timeline. That means that the bids through your procurement process might be more or less depending on your community's needs. Again, these are just estimates. However, the goal of this slide is to offer additional information for you that you might take into consideration as you prepare to submit an application in potentially round 4 of HPLN. So hopefully this is helpful to some folks that might be looking for estimates. Again, these are just estimates about how much time this might take for any of the elements or components of 174, or how much they might cost. Slide. Switching gears over to ADUG. ADUG just recently announced awards for their first funding round. Round 2 of ADUG will open on February 2nd and close February 27th, and will distribute approximately $800,000 in funding. ADUG applicants must have an ADU supportive jurisdiction certificate. If you're interested in finding out more about becoming an ADU supportive jurisdiction, you can reach out to Hannah Van Nimwagen, or applying for round 2, you can contact Jack Wolflink, or respond to the ADUG interest survey, which is also linked at the bottom of this slide and will be in the follow-up email from this presentation. Additionally, becoming an ADU supportive jurisdiction makes your residents eligible for ADU financing programs through local lenders under management by CHFA, as mentioned previously in this presentation. And this eligibility is granted whether or not you apply for the ADUG grant, as long as you are an ADU supportive jurisdiction. Next slide. And then switching gears to our final grant program we're talking about today, which is the Transit-Oriented Communities Infrastructure Grant, or TOCI. The TOCI grant program was created to assist local governments in upgrading infrastructure and supporting affordable housing in transit centers and neighborhood centers within certified transit-oriented communities. The first funding round of TOCI closed on December 12th, and we received 4 applications for a total of $13.3 million with an average request of $3.3 million per applicant. The award decisions for this pilot round of the grant program are expected in early February. All of the TOCI awardees that are announced in the future will be expected to reach TOC certification within 90 days of receiving the notice of award, because the TOCI grant program by statute can only award certified TOCs. The second and final funding round for TOCI grant program is scheduled for 2027, following the December 31st, 2026 statutory deadlines for TOC certification. TOCI grant staff are available, that's me and our program assistant Alice, at any time before 2027 to discuss prospective proposals for the 2027 TOCI grant round, and all future applicants will be required to complete a pre-application meeting before applying in the 2027 grant round. So I highly recommend starting early. You can schedule a time with us at any point, either to talk about your interest in the program, discuss what might be eligible, and we can always schedule another meeting later in the future once you've decided on a couple of potential proposal ideas for TOCI. And then, of course, the technical assistance team is always available for a courtesy review of your TOC certification materials before actually applying for certification through the LUHIP portal. And I think that's it. So I'll go ahead and hand it off to Eugene or Scott.
Thanks, Ashley. So I'm going to hop in here to talk a little bit about neighborhood centers. And I know we're kind of at the beginning of a new year. We've talked about this in the past, but I'll give you a little bit of a refresher on the Neighborhood Centers program, which is a new program envisioned under Senate Bill 174 and House Bill 1313. So neighborhood centers are a voluntary method for local governments to designate an area of their community that resembles a mixed use and walkable area, or one that they intend to evolve into that mixed-use walkable area. And the idea is to provide coordinated investments between local governments and the state to help build those environments with efficient access to jobs, services, and transit. As I mentioned, these may currently exist, or you may anticipate that an area may become a mixed-use pedestrian-oriented area over time, through the plans you've developed, the policies you've put in place, or the investments you have ready to go. And then for a deeper dive, we'll talk about this in just a second, but we do have some first round of guidance on neighborhood centers, and that's available on our website. To talk a little bit about the benefits of a neighborhood center, in addition to just having a real focused area for investment for the local government, there's also a provision in Senate Bill 174 that state agencies with relevant grant programs need to consider the designation of neighborhood centers and relevant grant programs by the end of December. They need to incorporate prioritization criteria for those. So those relevant agencies are listed here. And then we're really excited about the pilot round that just kicked off in mid-January. And we have a lot of interest from our 5 pilot communities in supporting the development of this program. So Avon, Berthoud, Castle Rock, Crested Butte, and Frisco, shout out to them. They've noted existing neighborhood centers within their jurisdictions that they would like to use as a test case for helping the state develop and further refine guidance for neighborhood centers. So to that end, we are also seeking input from a wider set of jurisdictions and interested people on the first edition of the guidance. So we do have on our neighborhood centers webpage both that draft guidance and a form that you can fill out to provide us a little input. In particular, we'd like to refine how the criteria we're using for evolving and future neighborhood centers. So if you can, please provide that response by mid-February if possible. And I think my last slide here is just a timeline, which will flash up quickly. But please feel free to reach out to me or Hannah Van Nimwegen with any questions on the Neighborhood Centers program. And I'll hand it back to Eugene.
Scott, thank you so much. This is wow. It's these recaps and sort of sharing what's coming does sort of give a good, clear indication of just how busy we all have been, and that includes all of you too. This is a calendar. We might continue to sort of evolve this calendar because a lot of things here were now in the past. But just a high level overview of some key milestones, of which most have been covered, although on those that are coming. But just a quick snapshot there. Here is a visual infographic outline of just upcoming potential funding opportunities. You heard a lot about those from this team, but also from other parts of DOLA and the Community Development Office. So local capacity planning grants and other related opportunities. So definitely reach out if you have questions or would like to see if there are financial programs set up to help assist your communities in the implementation of this work. You've heard this. If you've been listening today, we got a lot of resources out there. So here at a glance, you can see just a collection of some of the key ones. This is not an exhaustive list, so definitely check our website for more. And if there is, again, something that you think would be helpful, but you don't see it or it hasn't been created, let us know. We might be able to assist or outright develop that tool and resource and make it available for you, as well as everyone else around the state. And in closing, this is our contact information. Mitch Hendrick, who is usually here with us, is out on paternal leave. So excited for him. And we anticipate his return coming in February. But again, our contact information, we really are excited about all the work that collectively with all of you and your help we accomplished last year, and are really excited for what's in store for us in 2026. So if you didn't hear anything today, please take away that we are here to support you and to help you. Reach out to us, and I'll stop the recording and see if we have any questions that we can answer. All right. So, team, any